All right, this is hashtag homeless, day number 4. You can't even believe how difficult it is in this town to find a place to sit down and do this video without all kinds of crazy noise going on around me. You might hear some cop sirens. One of those just went flying past as I hit record, and since it was less than a minute in, I hit stop and record again. I don't know, you're going to hear some background noise. I got to the quietest place that I could. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes with you guys, give or take, and then I am going to the local library to set up my homeless office to continue my job search, and maybe even, you got to do something enjoyable when you're going through a bad time. I don't care, there are people out there who would give me a guilt trip for having an enjoyable hour or two of a day when I'm going through this, but I'm going to sit down and edit some photography. I'm still taking pictures. Let's see, before we get too deep, if you want to take a look at what I've been up to in terms of photography over the last few years, check out www.litgood.com. That's litgood.com. You can check out some of my photography. You can download some free wallpaper for your phone if you like what you see. I'm going to be adding more photos to that collection, various bits of social media. When you're homeless, you don't got much choice in what you're going to do with your day other than just going with the flow. And that brings me right to today's topic gracefully. And I can't believe I didn't even talk about this when this whole situation started, but that's being led by God. How do I know that God has my back, even in a situation like this? I got no other choice in my life right now than depend on the good Lord and our Savior Jesus Christ to walk with me and to guide me every step of the way since the moment I walked out of the door of the last roof that I was living under. I'm going to talk about that for just a few minutes, and that's going to be the focus of today. How do I know that I'm being led by God? And how, even in a situation like this where everything might seem hopeless and you're at the end of your patience, your tolerance, your ability to deal with whatever life is throwing at you, the number one thing I want to stress with these videos is that, we can all talk all day about picking yourself up and putting your life back together, and that's fine and dandy. I can do that. A lot of us can do that, but I really can't do any of that without the Lord telling me what He wants me to do, where He wants me to go. And, there's a reason that He put me here. There's a reason He brought me to the town that I'm in right now. And there's a reason for all of this that I don't understand yet, but believe me, 6 months from now, a year from now, I'll be telling you guys the reason, and it's all going to make sense. We're getting about 3.5 minutes in, and I'm going to just talk to you about Jesus and how He's been guiding me along. Just a few random examples, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my story about how we got here. Jesus told me well in advance, weeks in advance, that I was going to be homeless. I didn't want to believe it. There was no straight up threat or deadline, but I was in a toxic situation that I'm not going to talk about on here. I was in a toxic situation at home where, I'm not going to lie, I'm under less stress now, not knowing anything about where my life is going and how this is all going to wrap up. I can't even talk about the relief to get away from the toxic situation that I was in prior to this. But God gave me enough time to kind of slowly prepare for what was coming. He just told me, get ready. You're going to be living out you're going to be living out there in the streets. You're going to be having to figure something out weeks in advance. Probably a month before it happened, I knew it was happening. I just still didn't let it sink in. On the day that I became homeless, it was supposed to be pouring rain all day long. From earlier in the morning than I was going to leave all the way through till the end of the day. And that was a bit depressing to think about the 2 days leading up to it. I'm packing a backpack. I'm trying to protect some electronic equipment. I'm trying to keep things safe. I'm trying to make sure that I'm going to be okay. I'm wearing a pair of jeans instead of hiking pants. I'm trying to strike this balance of looking like a normal guy and not just making it plainly obvious that, oh, here's a homeless guy walking down the street. But a pair of jeans in a rainstorm is going to be a nightmare to deal with, because that could take 2 days to dry. So on the morning when I left, the clouds parted. There was not a drop of rain in the sky. It was partially cloudy, but mostly sunny the whole 6-mile walk to the town where I had to go to social services. It was sunny and warm the whole walk. It was almost like God just held back the rain and said, you know what, get to town, do what you got to do, and you're not going to get wet, at least not right out the gate. But then the rains did come. I was put in a situation where I had to choose. Either go and burn your money at a hotel to where the amount of money that you have is not even going to last a weekend. You're going to have to burn through this whole few $100 that you have to get a hotel room, maybe for the weekend. It's Friday morning. And, there are some pros and cons to this idea, but I'm going to be broke, flat zero broke on Monday, having to crawl back to social services and beg for an emergency shelter. Option number 2 was go live out in the woods, hang up a hammock in my tarp, and sleep out in the woods. And there's some benefits and pros and cons to that. One of the cons I'll get into in a minute. I'm fine with that in terms of, I'm a rugged outdoors man. I spend weeks at a time hiking and being outdoors, never going inside, being out in the wilderness. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. It bothers me to the extent of, how do I go show up at a job interview carrying a 60-pound rucksack, all, scruffy, and obviously haven't taken a shower in 3 days, and with clothes that are dirty, or, do I got to do a Clark Kent changeover in a phone booth before I jump into a job interview at the burger joint, just so I look presentable enough to get a job at a burger joint. So, all these different things are swirling through my head. And so the third option was go to the local homeless shelter. They said they would take me in, even though the Department of Social Services didn't refer me to them. They said they'd make room for me. They're expecting me to give them a donation of $50 a week to have a roof over my head. And I kind of weighed all the options, and I said, it just seems like that's the best option. So I walked down there. As soon as I walked in the door of the homeless shelter and got settled in and started the intake process, the rains came. So if I had chosen any other of the 2 options, I would have been soaking wet before I got to the hotel. I would have been soaking wet before I started setting up camp, wearing jeans, cotton. I'm wearing a wicking shirt, synthetic t-shirts, but the jeans that I'm wearing would have been trashed, done for days. I would have to lay them out in the sun and just sit there for hours waiting for these things to dry. So right there, that was just a sign from above saying, you'd made the right choice, dude. You didn't get wet. You made it just in time. I got your back, homie. I got you. The location of this homeless shelter is central to everything in town. It's in the middle of town. So no matter what direction I have to go for a job interview, for a resource, going to the library, going to the store, anything I've got to walk to, it's pretty much the least distance possible to walk from this shelter to any other place in town that I have to go and turn around and come back on my feet. If I had stayed in one of the hotels, the walk that I took today just to go get a haircut before a job interview tomorrow would have taken me 2.5 hours instead of an hour just to go one way. I already walked 3 miles, got my hair cut, turned around, walked back into town. I'm about to go to the library and set up shop. And I've got a job interview over the phone later on today, and the library has a soundproof room that I can utilize to take that call. And so, yeah, I'm using it. I'm using all the resources. The next thing that Jesus did for me, So I'm carrying around a 60-pound rucksack. And when I get to the homeless shelter, I pull out the stuff that I really need and put the rest in a storage locker in their basement. I needed some sort of bag to carry some things around town. And I was on my way walking to Walmart. It would have been a 3-mile walk. I had a backpack picked out. I even had the stuff with me that I was going to put in this backpack to make sure it would all fit. A laptop, a folder, like a pleather-bound folder that I can carry my papers in, and another padded bag that has, a few hard drives and some other equipment, a camera. I'm definitely a well-equipped homeless guy with a full, multimedia production studio in my bag. Halfway to Walmart, I come across a Salvation Army store. And I think to myself, you'd be an idiot not to go in this store. And so over where they have the backpacks and stuff, there's this one bag right over here. Let's see if I can take a look at it. And there it is right there. There's a computer bag, over the shoulder laptop bag with a Dell logo on it. And it was marked for $13, and this is a rugged, heavy-duty bag. It had a little bit of wear and tear on it, but I was able to take care of that. I'm like, for $13, there's no way I'm going to find anything at Walmart that's going to be this good. And the fact that it's a business bag, it's an over-the-shoulder bag, it's not a backpack. Even if I'm stuffing it full of extra clothes to walk to a job interview, do a Clark Kent change of clothes in a phone booth somewhere and jump into the interview, I'm going to walk in the door of wherever I'm going for an interview with an over-the-shoulder laptop bag that makes me look like I'm a business guy instead of some homeless dingbat showing up trying to find a job. So it looks professional. It carries everything, both my folder, my laptop, and this padded bag that had all that extra gear in it fit inside this bag perfectly. Like, I could not have found a better bag. And when I walked up to the counter to pay for it, they said, "Oh, that'll be $7." $7? You kidding me? That's great. $7 for a bag that was going to be $13. I had absolutely no guilt about spending $7 of my hard-earned money here on a bag that's going to do a lot of good for me, and it's already done good for me for the last couple of days. Let's see, the next thing that Jesus did for me. I'm over at a local coffee shop on Sunday because the library's closed. I buy a coffee with a gift card that the homeless shelter gave me. So it only cost me like 50 cents for this iced coffee. And I'm sitting there using their Wi-Fi for a few hours just to try and get some things done. And I realize, oh man, I left my Write in the Rain pen somewhere. I don't know. I lost a pen. But it's not just, I'm a picky guy when it comes to pens and writing utensils, and I have a waterproof Write in the Rain notebook that I'm looking at right now while I'm talking to you guys, and I have a tiny little clicker Write in the Rain pen, waterproof pen. You can literally write in the rain while it's downpouring. You can write on this notepad. You could tear a sheet off, leave it out in the rain, and the ink is going to not run. So this pen was only $15. It's not like it was a big expense, but this is something that you just can't replace in town. This was an Amazon purchase a long time ago. This is what I carry in my backpack when I'm out hiking and going on adventures. So I was really bummed that I lost this pen, and I'm trying to think, how am I going to find a pen that's going to write in the rain? How am I going to replace this pen? Yeah, I can go get a crappy Bic pen, but this is bothering me. Like, stupid little things like that, when you end up in a situation like this, are going to dig in and make you feel like garbage. So after I spent a few hours at the coffee shop, I decided to take the route back to the shelter, and I decided to walk through the park where I recorded yesterday's video. And here I am singing or saying what my grandmother used to tell me: "St. Anthony, come around, something's lost and can't be found. My pen might be on the ground. to this notepad. It is bound. Please help me say it's found. And I'm just, I'm dropping bars. I'm putting my rap video together for this this pen that I've lost. And sure enough, I get back to the picnic table where I recorded yesterday's video, and the pen is sitting right there. Just sitting there out in the open. It wasn't even in the spot where I would have left it because it was on the other side of the table. Someone saw the pen sitting there, and they put it right there at that table waiting for me to come back and get it later. And I can't even believe like how good it felt to find my pen. Like just something stupid and something simple like that just set me into such a good mood. So it's already 15 minutes, and the one thing that I have left to talk about is what got me in the situation in the first place. And how do I even begin? I spent 20 months in federal prison because of a social media post. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to walk away from the taking responsibility for my actions. I said some pretty nasty things on social media. The FBI raided my house in the middle of the night, took me away, and locked me in a cage for 20 months until I could get out and come home. Just to put things into perspective, I had a cellmate at one point during those 20 months who was in jail, who was in prison serving a 1.5 year long sentence for killing somebody in a drunk driving accident where he was the drunk driver. But the judge gave me 2 years in prison for a bad tweet. That's essentially what it boils down to. There's a lot more detail, but we're already at closing in on 17 minutes. And so I'm just going to throw that out there. This is my fault to a large extent, what got me in the situation. There's other factors at play. There's a lot of lies in the media about me and what happened, and we're not getting into that today. But while I was in prison, about 4 months before I came home, I met a chaplain who told me and other people, you should keep a journal of all the good things that God does for you, so that at the end of the year, you can look back at that journal, or if you're going through a bad time, you can pull this journal up and just read through it and say, you know what, God really is there for me. He's doing a lot. Here's one example after the next, after the next, after the next of where God himself stepped in and fixed a problem or did something for me or protected me from something that was going on, or just he was there and he guided me through it. And I started keeping this journal in the middle of November of last year, right around the middle of the month. And by the time April came and I was going home from prison, this journal was handwritten pages, front and back, sheets of paper, between 30 and 40 sheets of paper, front and back, from all the good things that God did for me in a span from November through April. And now I'm keeping the same log electronically through a journaling, through my note-taking application. I use Notion to take notes. Evernote, Notion, a few other apps, but Notion is where I'm keeping track of that stuff. And I'm going to talk about it on these videos because that's part of what I'm going through right now. And people out there need to know that, you can hit rock bottom. You can be making 6 figures, doing all kinds of great work. You can be living the dream in a beautiful home next to a 30-foot waterfall out in Amish country in Pennsylvania, working from home with a big office separate from your home. Just, you could be living the dream and have that. You can have the rug ripped out of you in the blink of an eye and lose everything you ever worked for in your life in less than a second. Just think about the drunk driver I was talking to you about. He made $250,000 a year as an engineer in the steel industry, and his life was over in the snap of a finger. He hit a guy on a bicycle. He had a few too many drinks with his buddies at the bar. His life was over. Boom. Done. That fast. That's how fast your life can end. That's how fast everything you've ever worked for can be taken away and ripped out from under you. And, I'm just putting this video together because a lot of my friends said, you should document this. You should show how someone can hit rock bottom and have absolutely no options and no direction and have absolutely no idea what to do or where to go. and you can come back from that. You can come back from that. So I'm here to show you that you can do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, and I just wanted to let you know I can't do it unless God himself steps in and points me in the right direction. And we'll keep talking about that. I'm going to post some photos here on TikTok. You could check out my Instagram. Once again, the website is litgood.com. You can branch out from there. Everything's haphazard right now. Everything's scatterbrained, but you'll see a lot of pictures there if you want to check it out. And leave me some comments, hit the subscribe button, do whatever, all the things that people say. And here we go. We got some noise showing up. So that was my cue to end this and get out of your hair for the day. Peace.